Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 220 with Shane Barboza. He is an artist, the creator of Fever Art. You can check that out on Instagram. He does a lot of great collabs. He's even given art memorabilia to people like Metro Boomin, Gunna, like a lot of great artists and producers and stuff like that. And he's done a lot of great things, even giving gifts to like Joe Mazzulla on the Celtics. So if you want to check that episode out, go to thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. As well as plugging the 5 Pillars of Creating a Meaningful Life. You can check that out on Amazon, only on Amazon. And if you buy the book, please submit the review on Amazon. It goes a long way in that algorithm. So that brings me to today's episode 221, bringing back a guest from episode 204, Mason Terra.
What's happening, my friend?
Welcome to the podcast again.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back on. And you've done a lot of interesting stuff over the past, less than a year. This is definitely one of the earliest returns of the podcast. So, I'm really excited. And you've done a lot of cool things. So, typically I always, say, try to let, a year happen for people that come on the podcast. But, you had a lot of cool stuff between earlier in this year and obviously right now and what you already have planned for the beginning of next year. And we're going to get through a lot of that on this podcast. But I think we should start off with the box and explain to people what that was about and why you did it and that whole experience. So I'll let you kind of catch people up on what's kind of been going on since that last podcast.
Yeah. So basically, the box was this idea that I came up with at work, actually. And I was inspired by a lot of different people, artists, I should say. And it stemmed from this kind of craving to get into the performing arts sphere and do something along the lines of using myself as the artwork rather than having artworks made. And so during the period of time that I was working at the museum and kind of doing drawings and ideas, I came up with this idea of a human AI, I guess you would say. I know that doesn't really make any sense, but I had been playing around with AI quite a bit. You know, it's quite a taboo subject for an artist to be making images with AI and using AI um, to create things. But I think there are definitely some areas of AI that are very interesting to me, and I think to a lot of people. I think some people that come to mind are like Edwin's Online, Gork Online. This weird images, surreal looking, almost scary, and I really appeal to that sort of stuff. What he had been making at the time was these weird old man animal hybrid type things, and along with a lot of other strange surreal images. And when I would show my friends or coworkers and I told them it was AI, it kind of left a sour taste in their mouth. And I had really had to think about AI and like what it does and how it works and is it art? I Do you think AI images are art?
Yes and no. Um, I like messing around with it. It's interesting. I know on my Fire Stick, there's a feature where you could create AI art of an elephant eating a burger or something like that, and it'll create the AI art or create some random thing. Usually, it's terrible, but I think it's an interesting tool that could be used in an interesting way. Like the cover of this book, my friend Aram Diarbian, who's been on the podcast, he does somewhat AI art ish. Like he's an artist, but he uses like 3D models, and I forget the software he told me that he uses, but um he creates almost like liminal space art, and he does like these weird videos that feel homey but creepy, but like weird. It's like it could be like an indoor like pool, but it's like not a real place, and it's like I don't know, like I'm probably like butchering liminal space art.
No, I get it though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he uses that like some of that stuff to generate things, and he helped use that to like generate some of the art on the cover for the book. And I think you could still be an artist and use AI. The thing is when you use AI as like the whole tool to create the art, that's where I feel like it could cause an issue because it's a tool. It's not supposed to be the artist. Like, sure, you can make AI art, but in my opinion, that takes the human element out of it, and it feels tacky.
Mm.
And once you do that, then we're getting in the conversation where I feel like people have a right to be upset by that because it's going to take away stuff from artists like yourself or Aram or even my guest last week, Shane. Like, we need human artists doing stuff. If you want to use AI, I think it's great because
Mm.
it can help speed up processes, and I imagine it's helpful. But I guess that's kind of where I stand on
Yeah.
AI.
And that seems to be what I hear from time to time from people, like they acknowledge that it's there, they acknowledge its utility. But when it goes as far as making like a complete artwork, like a easy bake oven, you put something in, makes it entirely, and it pops it out. I think I think in a way it's almost flipped for me. I feel like it shouldn't be used as a tool, but the final images that it makes could be the work of art. And here's why I think that. Because when you went to write this book, right, you had these ideas, you wanted to convey them, you wanted to write a book, right? You didn't ask someone to write it for you. You could have. You could have sent them all the bullet notes, and they probably would have done a great job, but it wouldn't have been your book. And so I think when you start using AI images to aid your work, I think it takes away from the act of creation, which is what making artwork is all about. Now, kind of where I'm basing that off of is because, for an artist to generate some images and then directly copy them and put them into the painting, well, that's a little bit different. You're kind of letting it do all the hard work while you change the little details and kind of color in the lines of it. There's the argument where you can, okay, I need a portrait of an old man. And then you're going to go to Google anyways and find one because unless your grandfather lives with you, you're not going to have an old man to take their portrait. And so you see kind of where the lines get grayed out a bit. You know, I think, of course, studying the human anatomy, studying light, studying shadow, I think those are all still necessary. Like you need this in order to utilize the tools of AI to its fullest extent. But that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is making full-fledged images with nothing then but just text and maybe supplemental photographs that you find online or you take yourself. And I think whether you consider it art or not doesn't really matter to me. I think a lot of things that I would like or consider a piece of artwork, many would disagree. Like look at the works Dan Flavin. Have you ever heard of Dan Flavin?
I haven't.
He's a light artist, and so he sets up these installations of fluorescent tubes of colored light and just puts them on the wall, puts them on the floor, puts them in the corner, and different colored lights bounce off the gallery walls. But that's just it. People would walk up to that and be like, "What is this? This isn't art. This is just light." But I think what we need to remember is that someone came to that conclusion. someone had that idea and someone executed it, right? And it's out there in the world. These images are out there in the world for you to see. Whether you call it art or not, it doesn't matter. They're there. And I think they should be sort of acknowledged. You know, I'm not critiquing it like I would critique a painting, but it's more of like a guttural feeling of like how it makes me feel, what it reminds me of, if it makes me happy or scared or like freaked out or whatever. I think that is kind of what we're missing. And then when you take that and you apply it to every day, it's like, okay, maybe that's why people are sick of living in, you know, boring cities or boring towns because, all this stuff, all these buildings everywhere, you know, they're just made to house people. There's no beauty in them. And so you react to these buildings. They're there. People won't consider them art because of their sheer utility and lack of cosmetics and intricate design or whatever. But they're there. You can go further in the spectrum and look at like brutalism and how flat and boring it is. But there's a reason for that. And so these images should be considered. And I'm still kind of like thinking about this, you know, as I go on about, how we should perceive it. But like, it's there. And we can choose to look at it, react to it, and it elicits a response just like a piece of art would. And so I didn't really shy away. I really played a lot with AI and specifically like image blending. That was like really the thing for me. Finding cool images online and, pictures I took and seeing what would happen. It's kind of just out of sheer curiosity, but it's really cool when you add that like element of chaos where it's like the computer takes this and mangles it together and you see what you get. It's very, very cool. And even the early stages of some of these models are very cool as well.
What
And
softwares would you use to do that?
I mainly use Midjourney. So it
Okay.
was run completely through Discord. It was like a Discord bot that you could either DM or add to a server, and you just kind of keep your images stored there. And so, at work, I would just like merge images and play like when people weren't coming in downtime, I kind of work on some images, make some cool things, share them online. And it was very fun. But where I was like conflicted was, you know, they're so cool. I almost like want to paint them. But then it's like, I don't know, it's very gray area for me. I try to make my paintings from just a place of like purity and like inspiration that I get from real life and books and things that I've seen, works that I've seen. And so for a little while there, it was kind of hard to shy away from that and not let it infect my artwork. But who knows? Maybe that'll be the case. And you know, also if I'm just copying the AI image, what's the point? So might as well let it be. But who knows?
It
Who
brings up an
knows?
interesting point, though. Let me just check this camera.
Yeah.
I was like panicked halfway through. I was like,
Nah,
"Is
you're
that even recording?"
good.
But you bring up an interesting point where should you shy away from this or should you lean into it as an artist?
Right.
And like honestly, this is everyday life. This
Mhm.
is like even in like my day job, they want us to use Copilot and to use Copilot to automate and basically use it to speed things up and learn it. And it's like interesting because it's like me personally, I enjoy that. Like I definitely enjoy giving a AI system a problem that would take me X number of hours to probably figure out. And it can take that and compress it and give me exactly what I need. Obviously, running through a few prompts and having to coach it a little bit
Sure.
because we're still in the early stages of that. But it's interesting when you bring that up because the first thing I thought of is like, I wonder how interesting it would be to take a picture that you've taken, give it to AI, and then tell it to like create a story or make something with it or do something different to it. And then you take that and then add something to it and then you give it back to it and say, do this with it. And like maybe you paint it, maybe you're not. But like leaning into it and working with it rather than having it do all the work. Maybe there is some middle ground because it's not going away. Like
Right.
at this point, it's here
Absolutely.
to stay. So like I think it's important to kind of embrace it. And the scary part is where it kind of feels a little uncanny a little
Mhm.
bit when you see the people it makes or the videos that you've seen, whether
Oh,
it's
it's
that
very strange.
it's some of them are funny, but then you still get like this weird feeling that it's not real. And like I remember I forget who I said this to, but like watching the videos, it's like it's soulless.
Mm.
And it really is. If you
It
really think about it,
is.
it's a soulless, it's not a real
And
person.
that's what you don't get with AI, is it's soulless. Exactly. And that's where I don't want to use it in my work, because that's not what the people want. They want me. Or at least I'm going to show them me. That's the truth I can provide, you
It's
know.
do you want people with AI to see the algorithm or see your soul as a
Exactly.
human? And then like that's the conversation I think people need to have in our society about technology and like where things are going. Like, do we want this system dictating our laws, our rules, and how we feel as people? Or do we want to decide that as actual human beings living the human experience?
Right.
Because when we allow these systems to start taking over and making rules and adjusting social media and adjusting our workplace and adjusting schools, like we're really taking the human experience, the human failure and error out of things.
Mm,
And I think, and I forget who said this on the podcast, but like I think it's beautiful to have like that human
of
error in our
course.
society because like that's how sometimes the greatest artworks or art pieces or buildings are created because someone messed up in their blueprint or their painting or some little detail and that makes it real, that makes it human. And if
Exactly.
we're going to take that away and add AI to make it perfect, this is what it looks like, you don't see the soul behind it, it is what it is, it's awesome, then we might be going down the wrong path here with this. And
Right.
I don't know if these conversations are being had in society, which is a scary thing because we're just being told to use this. Like,
Mm,
and like I was saying with work, like they're just telling you like you need to do this. Like, and obviously older generations don't like this, and it's fine. But like as someone who's a millennial, like still I try to be in touch with Gen Z as best I can to be involved in the culture
yeah.
in social media. But I like where this could go, like because I see it as a tool. Because I don't see this as a replacement. I see it can replace,
Mm,
and that's the thing is people need to wake up. Is this will replace you if you let it?
mm,
But you have to learn how to use this. And I think that goes for everyone across the board, whatever industry you're in. Like, you cannot let AI take your job, whether your job is like a 9 to 5, a podcast, an artist. Like, you can't let it take over,
mm.
but it can help you. It can increase your work productivity. It could increase like the way you edit your content.
Of
It can
course.
increase the way that you create art. It could
Yeah.
simplify things for you, but it can't create the art for you. And I
Right.
think that is like the message that needs to be like repeated over and
Right.
over going forward on this podcast and
Right.
others.
And it can't do it without you as well. Like
Yet.
right, right.
I'm sorry, I just had to. That
No,
was
no,
funny.
that's a good argument. And that brings up like consciousness and all that stuff. It's let me ask you something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. When people want to purchase furniture,
Mhm.
where's the store that they go?
You could say Bob's, Raymores. Like, are you saying like like mainstream stores, or
Yeah,
like are you
just
saying
where do people mostly get their furniture from?
because even Walmart or Amazon?
Yeah,
Like,
IKEA,
yeah,
you know.
IKEA,
And who is making these pieces of furniture?
probably machines, right?
Machines.
Yeah.
Machines. Um, you know, people are designing them, but running them through these machines and making them. Why aren't people getting furniture from the man who's carving them and hand nailing them themselves?
I would say now, unfortunately, is probably going to be price and time.
Exactly. We're sacrificing the hand of man for time and money. And so, if we look at anything for that matter, shoes, your shoes break, you buy another pair. You don't go to a cobbler who's gonna like nail your shoes back together and make them. You just buy another one. Like, how many cobblers do you know? How many furniture makers do you know? Like, people have been getting replaced for years. And just because people hold art to themselves so closely because it inherently is an emotional and, really visceral thing for people, that's when we get outraged. But I'm sure people were outraged at furniture factories mass producing things and, the small guy getting shut down. I think this is no different than a factory making things. Um, it's sad, but this is what happens. And there's always going to be people that don't follow the trend, that keep their typewriter and, call us computer geeks because we buy our computers and we type that way. But you're going to get left behind, old man. Like, you're not, like, you're either with us or, like, you get left behind. And so, if you're not utilizing AI, you're wasting your time and your energy, which is pretty much all you can provide in this world, is your life essence, your time. That is the only thing as a human being that you can provide. And so, you know, all the antique furniture now that's handmade is extremely expensive, you
Yeah.
know? And so that's why I'm not worried at all about AI, because people think it's going to be able to do what I do, but my artwork will be more valuable because it's like the antiques. It's like the handmade stuff. Why I I have handmade, not I should say we have handmade wicker pocketbooks and bags at the Whaling Museum, and people grab them and they're like, "Oh, this is so cute." They kind of flop it around until they see the price. They're a lot more gentle with the piece because it's like $400 for something that you're like, I swear to God, I could buy this on Amazon right now for $15. Just a wicker purse. But because it was handmade, the value goes up much more. And so that's kind of where I'm at with the whole AI thing. I think, um, you know, I really was so infatuated with like all the different points about it and arguments and this and that. Like, I just wanted to hear it all. And I think just the fact that these images are there is like really interesting. And so let's take that antique furniture maker and flip it to what I did. Okay, people want to use computers to make images. What if we had a human prompted like an AI to spit out images? Not just images, these are going to be hand drawn, drawings on pieces of paper. So I started to think about that, and I really couldn't get it out of my head. And usually when something's stuck in my head like that, I know it's good. You know, if it flees my mind, I forget about it. I forget about it. It wasn't important enough to stay. And so this one just like ate away at me, and I couldn't help myself but think, how would I do this sort of thing? Okay. I probably want to put them in a box because I've been inspired by, artists like Edward Skeletrix, who sat in a box for his gallery presentation. He sat on a box and people poked at him with, golf, what do you call that? Golf
Yeah. Yeah.
clubs, poured water on him. He just sat there like this with his hood. He was like here with his hood and he sat there like this. And I was like, holy cow. But he wasn't the first to come up with that. He was inspired by an artist, Marina Abramovich, who is still alive today, does a lot of performance artwork. She sat on stage, and on a table by her were different tools. There was rope, tape, scissors, a hammer, maybe markers or something like that. And she just sat on stage, and the audience walked up and did whatever they want. One would snip a piece of the hair and bring it home. Oh, I have, Marina Abramovich's hair. Some people snipped her clothes, revealing. Some people poured water on her. And so, like, when I learned about this was mainly when I went to Italy, learning about performance artists and like contemporary ones. And I was just so like affected by it. I was like, holy cow, I've never seen this before. This is nuts. And it's like, what could I do? I can't help but when I see something, I'm like, I could do something like that. What can I do? And so I decided to construct a box where people could see me inside, and I would have all my supplies there, and people would prompt me via a computer in the gallery or on their phones from their house. And so I had to come up with a plan to code this program, put it on my website where you put in a prompt, it feeds into a queue, and it gets displayed on a monitor, that's right in front of me. So I just wait, see what pops up, do the drawing, throw it out the box. So it's like this human robot machine that can't leave and is just trapped there. And I did it. I don't know why I wanted to make it extreme, like Mr. Beast style, but I made it 24 hours. So I wanted to stay in there for 24 hours. People could tune in at any time of the day or the night and see what I was drawing. And so for 24 hours, I just drew pretty much straight the whole time. If something was easy, I would just draw it quick, throw it out, and I'd wait for the next one. If it was late at night, I would sleep a bit, for I don't know, a minute and a half, hear the buzzer, get up, and do another drawing. And so, along with the performance, I wanted that to be the main show of the gallery space. I also had debuted like 5 brand new wicked big paintings, and had some other pieces from like a fighter who goes by the name of Rat Garbage. He makes some cool merchandise. Shout out Rat Garbage. He actually just got a UFC contract, so big ups to him. I also had some artworks from my buddy Mikhail, who designs clothes. Kind of dove into working on paintings and that sort of thing, and drawings, I guess you'd call it. And I also had some artworks from my girlfriend, so I wanted to have some of her pieces in the show. And on the other side, there was also Edwin's Online, who I had some of his old man human hybrids. And I just wanted to be a weird, something that people have never seen before. And the reactions I got were like incredible. People seeing these weird creature hybrids. It was just like, I got a real kick out of that. I'm a big troll, so I want to like got to put some troll in there. But no, the show was great, and the prep for it was like grueling 6 months or 5 months, whatever it was, constructing the box, buying all of the wood and all the paint and the Lexan for the box, and constructing the whole thing. My dad was a great help at designing and kind of going through different iterations to see what would work best to kind of like get my point across here. And all my buddies that helped me like film in certain areas, I wanted the promo to be, super tight and like planned. So we had like filming locations and you know that sort of thing, editing and the shorts and stuff. But it was a really fun lead up to the show, but just very very busy. A
It
lot of work.
looked awesome though. Like
Thank you.
that concept, like as soon as I saw you post that, one, I wanted to get you back on to talk about that because
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. And I think the concept is so cool because like we talked about obviously to open the show and I think that was a perfect segue to explain and talk about and discuss to get to the box was everyone does that. They put in their little thing, AI creates it for them. And then to take that and make it human is cool, and then to create a software where people can submit stuff and um put their prompts, and then to do that, like you said, Mr. Beast kind of style,
Yeah.
and to actually really commit to the bit and like go full throttle is really cool. My question is, I think were you using Twitch? Because I feel like I don't know why I feel like I saw Twitch for
It
some
was
reason.
YouTube and Instagram
Instagram.
that I was streaming on.
Have you ever considered? I don't know what your following is on like TikTok and trying to use TikToks. I feel like
Yeah.
that. I don't know how you could do it. Maybe having the website pinned in the comments.
Hmm.
Because one, I think you should do it again because I think it could just get bigger and bigger the more eyeballs that get on this, because I've never seen anyone do anything like this. And
Yeah.
I think it's so cool because especially with your style of artwork and how you draw and everything, it's unique. And I think doing this again would be worth it because I think it's only going to get bigger because the concept of AI is so in our face right now. And the more that you do it and the more platforms that you stream it, and like it might be shitty for you, you might have more prompts, but I think it could be really cool. And I see a lot of potential in like this, or whether you do another AI like type of demonstration or performative art. Like I think there's something there, and I think it should be revisited at some point. Obviously, it's up to you, but like I don't know. Personally, I just think it was like a really cool experience that like
Yeah.
that you were doing, and and again never seen anyone do anything like that. And I think we need more people doing that type of stuff. Like everyone's doing or trying to do the same type of content or the same type of art or the
Mm,
same type of music, and we have very few people in this world that are willing to try to do their own thing their way.
mm,
And the risk obviously of doing your thing your way is you don't become famous, you don't become popular, you don't become rich, and a lot of people aren't willing to sacrifice that. They're willing to talk about stuff that's popular, trending, in your face, divisive, to get clicks and to get fame. And this is even how I relate to my podcast is like I'm going to be authentic to myself and talk about what I want to talk about. I don't care if people think it's boring. I don't care if people think it's repetitive. I don't care if people don't watch. I have fun connecting with people or reconnecting with people about what they're going through or what they're doing in their life, because a lot of the time people are doing unique cool things but aren't getting the platform to talk about it half the time. Like me personally, I don't know of like a lot of podcasts locally that do what I do
mm.
and connect with people and have conversations in the way that I do because I'm me. Like there's going to be a lot of podcasts out there where people talk about different things and maybe talk even about mental health, but they don't do it in the way that I do.
Right.
And it's the same way you could look at your art. Like the way that you do it, no one can replicate that, not even AI.
Right.
And I think that is the point that people need to like really take from this conversation that we're having here, is whether it's AI or you're comparing yourself to others, like what it comes down to is like you as an individual in creating.
Mm,
What can you create and how do you do that authentically that's going to appeal not only to yourself but that could appeal to people like you? Because there are people like you out there. You just have to take the time to go and find them.
yeah.
And it's hard, like don't get me wrong, but we have social media, and it's easier now than it ever was before to connect with people who have a similar mindset to like creatives like ourselves that can think beyond what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and create, just keep creating. So I don't know, that's my 2 cents
No,
on it. I think it's really
absolutely.
cool.
I really appreciate it, and I do want to do more. It's just quite tolling
Oh yeah, I can
staying up for that
imagine.
long.
Yeah.
Like my hand was like super cramped, and like I really want to do it, and I have plans for another one. I have plans for other projects as well that I want to do, but I think I agree with you 100%. In hindsight, I probably should have done TikTok and Twitch and everything. But I think it was good to just do it because I learned so much about that beast and how to go about doing that. And, you know, it was my first like big solo show in like a big gallery right on Union Street in New Bedford. Like people are like poking their head in, just walking by on a I don't know Saturday or something, Saturday night, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Wait, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. And basically they went in and they're like, "What?" And so they like prompt me and they get a free drawing. It's just like that idea to me is very cool. And I think like how I went about the performance was I really wanted to like just disconnect with the audience. Like you're looking at almost like an animal in a cage or something. Like someone like you're spying on someone. Like there's a camera there and you're just watching someone work and you're like messing with them kind of. Like I really wanted the viewer to have that feeling and I think it definitely got the point across. I um made like no eye contact with people during the show, didn't acknowledge them at all. When people first got there, they're knocking on the glass, they're putting their face up, real up close to me, like trying to get a reaction out of me. And the performance part was just not acknowledging them. Like the outside world doesn't exist. I'm just here making drawings. That's my goal. Um, my other goal was to not take a shit because I had to shit so bad. Yeah, it was like towards the end, I was like worried to eat things because I didn't want to like get the gut going. And I'm like, oh no. I had a bucket, like a Home Depot bucket just in case. I did pee in the box 3 times, just using a Gatorade bottle, but or multiple. But yeah, it was I got a lot of good feedback and it makes me happy when people tell me how much they loved it. I got obviously a lot of my friends and family went and so they would see me for a little bit. They hang out in the gallery, put their prompts in, go to the bar, have a couple drinks, maybe they check up on me on their phone because they can just pull it right up and then they come back, they look on the floor and their drawing is there. Yeah, it's like that concept to me. If I saw this, I would think it was tight. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was one of the spectators, I'd be like, "Oh my god." Number one, I'd be extremely jealous at, the fact that I didn't think of that first. But when I knew I got this idea, I knew like there was something to this. Like there's something here. And I had to do it. And I told my boss at work, like, listen, I just had a meeting with her, had laid out my plans and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, you know, am I gonna be able to get some time off here? Like, can you let me do this here for just a few months? I'm having the show at this time. And she was incredibly supportive. Like my boss at the museum is just incredible, incredible person. And it really allowed me to pull this stunt off. I think if I was working and teaching and training jujitsu at the same time, it would have been just absolutely impossible. It was just so much work. But I want to do more. I think, I don't have to have a whole show. I don't have to do paintings. Just, I could do this again and replicate it and bring it somewhere. And I want to go, into Boston and Providence and bring this to like places that'll appreciate it,
Yeah,
basically.
I think if you continue to offer that and like go places and do this in different places, like the potential is insane.
Mm.
Like, because like it really puts things in perspective too. If you think about AI, like, is it just a person in there? Like, obviously not really, but like
Right.
from that perspective, is it just a person just creating art, like
Yeah.
having to ignore everything around it, just create,
Yeah, like a
create
little guy
nonstop? Yeah,
in the box just grinding away.
and like I don't know, it just like it makes you think a little bit too, and I think that's the part that's cool. It's not just art; it's also thought provoking,
Mm.
and like that is unique, and it's a fresh idea where you're taking a spin on modern technology with AI, which is such a huge like topic right now, and you're becoming the AI as a human and
Yeah.
doing it. And I don't know, I think there's just a lot of potential with that. And like I
Yeah.
think you should explore, obviously it takes obviously a ton of time and effort to like
Yeah, to
navigate
to
that.
lug that whole thing, like I had that in the back of my grandfather's Toyota pickup truck, and like the Lexan panels were just like flapping. I'm going like 25 on the highway. They're just like flapping, like scuffed ratchet strap together. it was like it was crazy. It was crazy, but I pulled it off, dude. I had to lug the Lexan pieces. Me and my friends and my dad lugged 4 big ass Lexan pieces, which is like acrylic, basically, like
Hmm.
floppy acrylic, up 4 flights of stairs in a tight stairway in like a Fall River mill. And it's like middle of the summer, everyone's dripping bullets. Like, honestly, everyone that helped me is just such goats because like I I don't know, it's just I'm asking a lot and they just like delivered and unapologetically helped me and like it was it was crazy. It was crazy. And so like I think next time I'm just gonna get a U-Haul. Like just bite the bullet and pay for a U-Haul and you know, just hope it works out. But yeah, all the pieces are sitting like in next to my studio in the basement where I have like my stuff. And so it's ready for another one.
I
Ready for
would
another one.
spam the fuck out of clips on TikTok, like, or just go back because obviously you have all the footage, and
Right.
like, I would just maybe use AI to do it for you to save some time.
Yeah.
Just clip the fuck out of that and
Yeah.
spam that because I feel like that obviously do that, slap like maybe a filter on that or a trending audio and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
type something. I don't know how active you are on TikTok or what your account is like, but
Uh,
I,
uh,
I just think more eyeballs on this is
yeah.
necessary because it's such a dope idea.
Yeah.
And I think if you get enough eyeballs on it, because like I always say TikTok, it could be Instagram,
Hmm.
Reels and stuff like that. But I think TikTok has just like the algorithm down.
Yeah.
But spamming that could get the right eyeballs on it and maybe tagging different museums and stuff because I really think these types of places would want you to come do this there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I've never heard of anything like this. And
Yeah.
like maybe someone can prove me wrong on a podcast and point it out and send me a
As
video. But
far
like
as I am
I've never
aware,
seen it.
there have been like this is kind of like a trend now too, like the box thing. I see that artist Edwin do it. I think streamers have been doing it, going in boxes. Um,
But I think your concept is
right, it's
massively
different.
different and like
Yes, yes,
it serves a purpose
right,
too.
right.
And it links exactly to what we talked about. And I think people would really resonate with that more than like a streamer doing something or a 24-hour
Sure,
whatever. Like
sure.
I think the artistic nature of it, and obviously this requires a little bit more high IQ from people
Hmm.
um to appreciate it, but like that is a little bit more thought provoking, as I've
Yeah,
said. I do want to kind of like pivot a little bit to
sure.
the Azores stuff
Yeah,
and kind of like what's been going on with that. Because I know you just took a trip out there and then
yeah.
you got something planned at the beginning of next year. So I'll let you kind of like dive into that.
Yeah, well, I just went on a trip with my family. We took a trip to the Azores. It's my second time going. I went 3 years ago, and it was a blast. I, I love the Azores. So it's just so beautiful there.
Yeah, I just went in
It's
June. So yeah,
incredibly
love it.
beautiful. Where did you guys stay? Like what
Ponta Delgada.
Ponta
If I'm,
Delgada? Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's like the main city
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
island.
We
Yeah,
kind of stayed mostly in that
yeah.
area and did a couple different tours, like the major different things. But
Okay.
yeah, it was awesome. Like
Yeah,
just total different like pace of life, and we had a great
for
tour
sure.
guide to explain like just some of the difference. Like obviously our Airbnb had like air conditioning and stuff, and he's talking about like it's like I don't have air conditioning and like
Our house at
yeah,
first did not have air
it's
conditioning.
tough because like you think of the weather, you're like when I first was looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be I forget what it was like 70 something. It's like
Yeah.
it's not even gonna be much warmer than it is here, and then you get there, it's like, damn, this shit's hot.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
it's
muggy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But it was great. I would definitely go back and um I have like family ties from like my mom's side.
yeah, that's what I was gonna
So
ask.
yeah, that's where her like I think it was her great grandparent or my great grandparents, her
Mhm.
grandparents originally immigrated from. So it felt homey. I've been to Ireland. I'm Irish as well, and I have family that ties back to that. And I had the same type of feeling where
Yeah,
it felt like home in
a
a weird way.
familiar
Yeah,
almost. Yeah, familiar family.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Similar. Um, just want to make that observation because I felt the same thing. And where is your? You said your mother is from the
Yeah,
Azores,
San Miguel.
San Miguel. And what do you know? Like what village was it? Punta Delgada. She's from, or
I forget. I'd have to ask her.
yeah.
I don't think it was Ponta
Okay.
Delgado, but I'd have to ask her. I forget exactly. We talked about it on the trip, and it's
Yeah.
gonna.
No, that's okay. There's a lot of them. Did you guys end up going to see like the calderas in Furnace? It's
Yes,
how it's
yes,
spelled.
yeah,
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 so
yeah,
you
yeah.
saw them.
Yeah.
So that's where my family is from. So like the first time we went, the house was right by those like bubbling
Hmm.
hot springs and stuff. And so like every night we'd go and like, bring our cups with a tea or like instant decaf coffee. And there's like the little spout that like spews the super hot water. So we'd make a little coffee or a tea and like hang by the like little calderas and stuff. It's just like so exotic and unique, and like when you're in Funage, the smell is like so iconic.
Mm.
That like sulfur like fart smell almost. um when I went a week ago, we stayed for um like a week and a little bit over a week in Funage, and we spent the rest of our time in Punta Delgada. My mom and my dad went last year just by themselves. And so they really liked staying in Punta Delgada for a little bit. It's just really active. You can walk out and there's just like stores, cafes, bars, and, churches, things to see. So it's really cool there. I prefer like the more laid back feudinage, walking around the town and, that sort of thing. But I think it's just like, when you hear people talk, it sounds just like my grandmother. Like they speak the same Portuguese, and so it feels, kind of homey to me. And I speak a bit of Portuguese, not much at all, but enough to get around and like talk small talk with people and order things and stuff. And so like that kind of experience is like really cool to me. Like the culture there, and all the beauty of nature and stuff, like just everything that the Azores is the buildings are built on is just like absolutely fascinates me. Like the place is just really cool. Going into Funage, all the turns and stuff, it's just wild. It's wild. Yeah.
I like the pace of the Azores, where it felt like, I don't know, just like the energy of it too was just kind of laid back, and uh, just like obviously the way like America is, it's like very fast paced. Got to do everything right away, and it's just like it's like slowed down. Like everyone's kind of like in a good mood.
Yeah,
Like it just feels different, and obviously like they have their own economic issues, and like tourism can like be disruptive to like the island
for sure.
sometimes, and um obviously Ponta Delgada is like more the tourist part where
Right.
the money is, and like a lot of the people actually on the island don't get to go there, and
Hmm.
like that was stuff that me and my cousin, we did like a whole recap trip and just talked about like our experience and like
That's
our point
cool.
of view.
I
And
should listen to that.
it was, yeah, we tried it. We did one for we went to Germany a couple years ago, did an Oktoberfest like
Cool.
podcast and
That's
recapped it.
sweet.
um I did an Ireland one where I recapped it. It was around my birthday, so I did that.
Hmm.
And we're actually planning a trip in next May to go to Scotland.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's gonna be a cool one.
Wow.
Um, we just try to like do stuff as family, and
Yeah.
like while we still can, at like with my parents, my aunt and uncle, and my cousin, brother, and my girlfriend, and like we're just trying to like do what we can while we can.
Yeah.
And because there's gonna be a point where hopefully like I can have kids in my own family. I would like that, or like my cousin might want to have kids, and or my brother, or my parents and uncle might get too old where they can't travel anymore. So
Yeah.
like doing it while we can to create those memories that are gonna be like everlasting is something that we've really like hit on in that podcast and appreciated in the moment while on that trip. And I'm still reading this book. I'm like horrible with reading books these days, but it's talking about kind of like experience, and like how like even kind of we're talking about like AI, like we're supplementing that with technology. And one of the beginning quotes of the book, I'm going to butcher this because I haven't read the quote in a minute, but it is basically don't miss the meaning of the experience.
Mm.
So like while you're in the experience, actually understand like what you're doing, and
Yeah.
like could be learning from that instead of just being like, oh, I'm in the moment, la la la.
Yeah.
Like I mean, maybe this is just me, but I kind of take life a little more seriously. Like I think there's meaning in things, and
Of
like I
course.
try to find the meaning in things, and why I'm doing something. Like what's the point? Like if I don't find a point, even the quote that I shared this week from today on Friday was basically ask yourself why you're doing something. If you don't know why you're doing it, you should run away from that.
Mm,
Because if you're mindlessly doing things, and like I understand sometimes we have to do that with our jobs to make money and pay for our bills and all that stuff. We live in a society like that. But find the thing that you understand why you're doing it. If it makes sense why you're doing it. Like when I'm behind a microphone talking to you or anyone that's been on this podcast, I remember why I do this. I think about my second episode with my grandfather, and he since passed. But I have that episode forever,
mhm,
and it's a podcast of him talking about his life. He had brain cancer at the time. He was terminal. He knew he was going to die, and I got an open, honest conversation with my grandfather that I forever get to have,
yeah.
and that's why I keep doing this. Like knock on wood, something nothing bad ever happens to a guest on my podcast, but I have that episode for them and their family and their friends to like always look at and like cherish and get to hear their actual thoughts on
Yeah.
stuff. And that's the way I look at this and like connecting people. And I think it's always great when people like yourself want to come back and talk to me because that makes me feel like I'm doing something valuable.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that whole like find the meaning of why you're doing things. And um, I think there's just value in traveling and traveling with family. I think it's important to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So like hearing that you did that with yours and going back to homelands and like experience
Well,
that.
the thing with this one was, and it perfectly ties into what you're saying because the last time we had gone, I'd gone with my whole family, aunts, uncles, my grandparents. But this time around was a bit different. Um, about a year ago, my grandfather was like diagnosed with cancer. Um, it was just like an insane shock. It was just like horrible. In and out of the hospital, issues with brain, and I won't go too in depth with it, but it was looking like he wasn't going to be able to go to Portugal with us. And so for you to say, appreciate the time you have, like you really gotta, you can't squander it. You gotta really take advantage of the time you have with these people because you never know. You never know. Like, we had planned the whole trip for them to be with us, and then something happens, and do we go? Do we stay? It was like such a dilemma, it was something that we had to process. Of course, my grandfather insisted we go to the country he's from and enjoy it and relax and, you know, so yeah, it was a tough one. It was a very tough one. And I don't really expect to talk about this on here, but I guess since we're here, I'll acknowledge it. But like, yeah, we didn't think we were going to go. It was very, very close. He wasn't looking too good. But as things got better, doctors were treating him and stuff. You know, you understand.
Yeah,
You understand. Hopefully, one day we can go again with him and my grandparents. But you never know. All we got to do is just pray and like be healthy and just kind of like, you know, keep the time that we have.
yeah, absolutely. And like that's important. That's like hitting that really ties into kind of what I was saying and why like my family does what we do and like even referencing like the episode of my grandfather and like even last week with his wife because my grandfather before I was even born divorced my grandmother. So I came in with like a second set of like grandparents
Mm,
basically. Um, so his second wife, we had me and my girlfriend went over there for dinner. She's been on the podcast, like amazing woman. I love her to death. If she listens to this episode, shout out to my grandma Susan. But we went over there last Thursday and had dinner, and like we've done that like after the podcast we recorded. We went there and had dinner. This time we just went by ourselves because last time it was my grandfather's brother was in town and
mhm,
visiting them. But just trying to do that, like you said, like while they're still here and able to like making the time and like creating an experience and seeing them is super important because
yeah,
like you never know what can happen in life. Like things change very fast sometimes, and um, I think it's important to like make those connections with the people that you care about. Like
yeah,
try to at least like you can't make it with everyone because sometimes they don't reach across the aisle and want to do it too, but you do what you can, and like creating those experiences, I think it's super important. But getting back to the Azores, um, talk to me about the art piece of it, because that part is
Sure.
really interesting.
So, like, you mean like going there, or like the beginning of next year?
Beginning of next year, and
Yeah.
like even like
I did
the
draw a lot on the
yeah,
trip.
you were drawing a lot, and I kind
Yes.
of want
Yeah.
to talk about that, and then also talk about the opportunity because we're getting towards that back end. And I don't want to skip over the
Sure.
last
Yeah,
piece that we
yeah.
want to do.
Uh, Basically, for me at least, like the way I appreciate things and kind of like live in the moment and kind of like have it ingrained in my brain is to draw things, especially things that I like, that like pique my interest and that I want to, you know, get down on paper. It allows me to just like, it's almost like meditation in a way. I'm looking at the object, I'm looking at the building, whatever it is, the person, and just kind of like focusing in on it, and as an artist, you got to see like where the lines are going to go, where the marks are going to be, where the light is and stuff. And so it really makes you look at it. And so I really appreciate that aspect of drawing, that like I can just have that with me, just a little book in my pocket, a little pen or a pencil, and just pull it out anywhere and just like kind of just go about it. You could take your time, you can go fast, but just the act of like looking up, looking down, and like your eye moving around things. It's like, for me, that's like my vacation. That's like my relaxing, along with enjoying the food and the beaches and stuff. I that's how I kind of like get one with the trip and like be in the place. That makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does, and I want to start turning into how did this opportunity that you got coming up at the beginning of next year? How did that come to be?
So,
And talk about
um,
what it is. Obviously, I'm gonna
yeah.
let you kind of
Well,
do that.
it's this organization, I guess you would say, very new organization. They're called Hotel Papel, and basically they are setting up a trip for artists to go to the Azores, to have 24/7 studio access, a place to stay, dinners, um, an exhibition at the end of the trip, and also an exhibition when we bring all the artworks back. Just an opportunity for people to be in the Azores, work for a little bit, network, see new things, meet new people, and get some cool artwork out of it, see what will come about it. And so I can't remember honestly how I like heard of this. Maybe it was through like Dina, the girl that owns the gallery, I should say, like the space where I have my studio. I think she may have reshared something because it's all in the New Bedford area. All kind of these people are intertwined, and so I found out about it, and I was like, "Holy cow! It's Fayal, the island of Fayal, and it's where my dad's parents are from, actually." A way smaller island, but still very, very cool. And the fact that I can go there and work and just solely do that just sounds incredible to me. So I said, you know what, let me apply. Let me, let them know I'm Portuguese and my grandparents are from one island, the other grandparents are from another. And, I can draw all the time and paint all the time. And so one day I got the email that I was accepted, and I was like, holy cow, that's pretty cool. So I'll be going at the end of January, and um, yeah, it's a crazy experience, and I'll invite you're invited to the exhibition we have here. It will be in New Bedford, so you're more than welcome to come to that. But I in thinking of kind of what I would do for the for my project there, my idea was to kind of gather up things that I see and depict them in my way, draw them, study them, and kind of like capture capture my experience through the lens of me. And I think I focus on different things. I kind of find importance in things that other people don't really find importance in, and so I'm excited to kind of like take these bits that I gather, fish and boats and mountains and archaeology and landforms and nature, all things that I'm really into. um, I want to make artworks from that trip. And I've never really done anything like that. I've never really made any you know, paintings like in the space. So I'm very curious to see what I'll make and what comes out of it. I'm very excited. But my main mission when I go is to visit um, these structures that I've been researching for quite some time now. Um, there are stone pyramids on the island of Piku. So the island of Piku is very very small. These islands are located on the western part of the island, um, and Piku is also like the island with the biggest mountain or volcano or whatever you want to call it now. It essentially is a volcano
Mhm.
that's kind of crusted over. But I'm got super interested in these pyramids when I started to go down the rabbit hole of maybe there were people on the Azores before the Portuguese. And it's kind of quite a controversial idea to think about, specifically because the Portuguese have such pride in their land, especially from the Azores. But you know when I started learning more about these pyramids and other man-made caves and other man-made structures throughout the islands, I really raised my eyebrow at some of the evidence of kind of what's the story here. Azores are very remote, and not a lot of researchers go there. Like archaeology is not the biggest in the Azores, but there is this kind of underlying theme, and it's definitely present there if you go to the Azores. This subtle theme that this could potentially be one of these spots of Atlantis. And everyone listening is probably going to think I'm insane, but before sometime in the 1900s, I want to say 1930s or 40s, um, Troy, the city of Troy, was just another myth, described in a book that, someone made a long, long time ago. And it was, very similar to the story of Atlantis. I know the story of Atlantis, at least in Plato's recording of it, which is kind of what we're basing this idea off of, is a lot more colorful than how Troy was described. Atlantis had, fish men armies and giant structures that were hundreds of miles wide in a circle and a middle platform that rose up and stuff. But when you really start to read Plato's kind of collection of information from other people about Atlantis, um, it really makes you think. The city of Troy was discovered. So before it was this myth, it was this fictional place, but then they found it. So makes me think and other people think the same, that what if Atlantis is just yet to be discovered? It's this sunken city, it's underneath water. How much of the ocean have we explored? I think it's 1-2% or something like that, like some insane statistic. So I think there's a lot of stuff that, number one, people aren't looking for. Just straight up, people aren't searching. They aren't searching because, number two, they don't believe it exists or it's impossible. And so if it's impossible, why would you even bother to waste your time to look for it? So that road kind of ends there. I think there is, whether you want to call it evidence or not, it's just kind of echoes almost of Atlantis when you're there, and when you kind of look into these caves with carvings and this sort of thing. Maybe not specifically Atlantis, but a civilization that is long gone, that was there way before the Europeans ever got there. I've read a lot of accounts of different, you know, people that were on ships that were going to the Azores in the 1400s to basically colonize it, and they report um, no one being there. The only small rodents were mice that we'll get into, but the other biggest creature there was this um, falcon, this falcon called the Azori. And so that's how they got the name. That's why this bird is on the flag. That explains why we have that there, because these settlers, that's what they saw. Now, when we look at other creatures that are on the Azores Islands, there's not much. Okay. The rodents are the main thing of interest because when you look at their genetics, they don't trace to Portugal. They don't trace back to Portugal. They don't even trace back to being native on that island. They trace back to Northern Europe, so like Norse origins, which means that most likely these mice lived in the bellies of ships, and when these Vikings or Nordics arrived, maybe not for a to settle there, but maybe just for a pit stop to stop in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. That is where they settled, and so it's just kind of like there's just a lot of like weird things that I want to explore, and I want to see myself and basically draw them myself. I want to look for these pyramids that are supposedly agricultural pyramids that were made, mounds, I guess you should say, that were made in the process of clearing farmland. It's volcanic rocks are everywhere. And so, I guess the idea is that we collect these rocks, and instead of like, throwing them somewhere or doing whatever, they build pyramids of them, and not just arbitrary pyramids, but pyramids that are lined up with the peak of the mountain, and things, pyramids that point towards certain astrological constellations and stuff. It's just very strange. It's very strange. Like it, it's almost as if we're like missing something. Like we need to look a bit deeper here, and get see what this is all about. People people especially modern archaeologists want to just say that this is how it is because there's people that are tied to those beliefs that have made those studies and conclusions, and if you say they're wrong, you're basically calling the person wrong because they attach themselves so much to this research and stuff, and it's like really the opposite of like what science should be. I think we should like consider all these things and consider all our options, and like really keep our minds open to like, you know maybe it's not Atlantis, but maybe there were people here that knew something that we didn't. And that goes for all of these potential lost civilizations like Egypt and Gobekli Tepe, and in South America, and all those pyramids there. It all seems eerily similar, especially how the pyramids are built. They look very similar to certain step pyramids that are in Central South America and Central America.
No, I'm definitely on the same page. I mean, I'm a big fan too of Graham Hancock, and I've
Yeah,
watched the documentaries, and there was stuff before, and
for sure.
it got wiped out, unfortunately, whether it was a natural disaster or there was some other influence that we don't know
Yeah,
yet.
I think
And
it's the flood.
yeah, but we don't know about all this other history, and even if you get down the conspiracy of religion or Jesus and like who he was or what he could have been,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, it goes down a huge rabbit hole, and that's a whole
Yeah,
different
it is quite
podcast.
the rabbit hole.
But I think what you're doing out there, what you're going to do out there, is going to be really cool, and it's a good challenge, and it's a good unique experience. That it's an amazing opportunity, and
Yeah,
I'm glad that you're going to be able to go do that. We are at like that back end of that podcast where I definitely want to start like wrapping stuff up so we don't
sure
go too
thing.
much over. But if you wanted to touch on the book, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Go for it.
I did read Carroll's book here, and I read it on the flight home from I went to Utah for a bit, and like went camping, hiking, all that good stuff. And I brought it with me because I was like, I want to read this. I want to like read it on the plane. I like to read on planes. And so I knew you had drawn some like inspiration from Jordan Peterson, and so I wanted to see how you would um go about, your ideas and your ways to create a meaningful life. And I'm gonna be honest, like I agree with all of them. I think I guess when I was finished with the book, I wanted more. So I hope you like are have in your head to like make another one, like a nice fat one, and just like don't worry about any timeline, just work and you know like really flesh out all of your ideas, because I think like you were cooking with this. I think I just was left wanting more, basically. I want to like get into the nitty gritty and like I loved all the chapters, and I mentioned before the show started, like one of the chapters almost like it was making me tear up while I was reading it on the plane, because my dogs are getting older. My one dog in particular is very sick, and so he's kind of like a old man. Got to carry him up the stairs and stuff. Has a trouble going to the bathroom, and also with my grandfather being sick. I actually, oddly enough, when I found out the day I got back, like my mom picked me up from the airport from that trip. It was very weird. That's why I like want more from this, because I'm flying home from Utah, from Arizona, reading this on the flight, and when my mom picked me up, I like immediately could like I don't know, like I could sense something was strange. Like even while I was on the trip, I could sense something was strange. Maybe it was my dog that passed away. They didn't want to tell me on the trip, so they didn't ruin my experience. But I don't know, I feel like something was up. And so that's when my mom told me that my grandfather had cancer. And I was just like, I don't know, my intuition never fails me. Like my intuition was just telling me like something was going down, that I needed to read this. Like it was like part of like the timeline. And I just want to say it's just excellent work. I think you have something really nice here. I think that the pillars that you've formed are they're all like very true. They're all very true, and like I think I always think back to the Tao, like the yin yang symbol. And like you said, there's good things to have a meaningful life, but there's also bad things that need to happen to you to have a meaningful life, that I guess don't need to happen to you, but absolutely will happen to you. And I almost was like prepared for the news after I read this. And I just thought back to what Carol said and was like, you know, I gotta. This is how it is, and I can't. I couldn't quote anything in particular, but like the loss chapter being the last one was just like it was like a hitter for me, and just good stuff, Jared. Good stuff. I want another book out of you. I want like something beefy that's gonna take me a little bit. Really take your time to get into the weeds and just like flesh it out and super, you know, say what you gotta say, and like see what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
You
and
know? Like it was you got something there. You
well,
got
I
something
I
there.
really do appreciate this is like probably the best feedback that I've gotten from the book.
Hmm.
I've had people comment here and there, but I think that was like the most thoughtful response,
Yeah.
because with and I won't spend too much time going on this because we'll
That's all
wrap
right.
things up. But I really wanted to create a book that one was readable, because I had someone to say that they appreciated that it was like quick and they could read it, and like they
Yeah.
didn't have to dedicate so much time to it. So like that was part of it. One that I never wrote a book before, so I
Yeah.
wanted to make it like tangible for myself, that was
Yeah.
achievable. And the pillars, I wanted stuff that was like universal, undeniable,
Yes.
that you can't argue with it because it affects everyone. In the way that I wrote it, I wanted everyone to feel it.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how you slice it, whether you disagree with me on a
Hmm.
version of a pillar, you're still gonna feel it a different way.
Right.
Like, and that was like my point, because like, I mean, it's the same way I do my podcast. I want everyone to feel welcome to it. And with my book, I want everyone to feel like they could resonate with a pillar.
It really is for everyone. You like talked about all the different religions, the different gods. You related it to your life. You brought up, your anecdotes to tie it back into like why you're making these pillars, It was from you, and that was like very apparent,
Yeah.
and this can be translated for everyone regardless of religion, race, gender, whatever. It's just like a good universal little little manual, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I give it to my buddy and I'm like, just take a look at this. It's a cool, interesting little like like a little manual. Like that's kind of how it made me feel. Like I can go back to here and be like, yeah, this is how it goes down with love. This I gotta read this up here, and like how everyone experiences love differently, whether it's romantic, with a pet, with a family. It's all similar but different. Like that. I really like that part in love, like the different
Yeah.
how you love, like how you talked about your dog. I believe was in
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
Love and loss. It's
Yes. Exactly.
because and like that was the point with the last chapter, is like, I feel like a lot of the things that have happened in my life that have created meaning come from loss.
Mm,
Whether it's loss of a relationship, loss of a career, loss of a family member, whatever it may be, that's where a lot of the change comes from, and a lot of the growth, because you have to learn. You're
mm,
forced to. Like, death is an inevitable part, loss is an inevitable part of life. And it's always a constant reminder of how important things actually are.
yeah.
So that's why I think it's the perfect way to wrap that book, and even, I guess, wrap this podcast, is
Yeah.
like the reminder to like appreciate things, because it's finite. Like,
Mm,
obviously wherever we go after this life is wherever we go, but for this life, for Mason Terra, for Jared Carroll, this is it. Like,
yeah.
we
This is the
don't we
experience.
don't get a second version of this, and maybe in some weird parallel universe we do, but like,
Hmm.
this right now, with what we're conscious with, like, this is it.
Yeah.
So to appreciate it, and appreciate the people around us, appreciate the trips that you get to go on, appreciate the art that you get to create, appreciate the podcast that we're doing right now, and really understand the experience that you're having.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a great way to start wrapping this podcast. I don't have like a last question for you, but
Hmm.
I'll give you. I've been kind of doing on return episodes. It's
Yeah.
like your last thoughts. So I'll let
Hmm.
you kind of have your last thoughts, whether it could be about your art, the Azores, the book, like whatever. I'll let you kind of take us home a little bit.
Well, I just really appreciate you having me on. I'm like glad to be a part of the Carroll sphere, you know what I'm saying? Like a part of that universe. I just really appreciate what you're doing, giving the people the voice, and smaller guys like me that, you know, are just like trying to share ideas and learn about new ideas with other people, and you know just have a talk, and it's like real cool what you're doing, and I really appreciate it. And I'm just like grateful, very grateful for like how things are going.
Perfect. And I'm excited to see where you go from this. I'm excited for what you do on your trip back to the Azores, and the art that you're going to create. And
Thank you, brother.
again, just thank you for coming back on the podcast, and
Of course.
definitely reignites like the fire, and that I feel like I'm doing something. So I
Yeah, of
appreciate you for doing that.
course, man.
If you want to look into this camera, just plug where people can find you.
You can get me at Instagram on masonandterra.com. So Mason and Terra Not masonandterra.com. That's my website. But Instagram is Mason and Terra. Website masonandterra.com. YouTube Mason Terra. Just my name. TikTok Mason Terra. But yeah, that's pretty much all my stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for coming back on.
Of course.
For you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, just like Mason, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. And as well as plugging the 5 pillars of creating a meaningful life. Get it on Amazon. If you get the book, please read the book and review it. It goes a long way in the algorithm. So, till next time, guys, peace.